This is Khatt Chronicles, design stories from the Arab world and the Swana region. My name is Huda Smitshuijzen AbiFarès, and I have with me today Amir Mahdi Moslehi. Amir is an Iranian graphic designer and typeface designer. He was trained in calligraphy by Mohammad Reza Zarif, Hussein Gholami, Morteza Kourshi, and Abbas Akhawain. His training in calligraphy was done in Tehran. He graduated with a Bachelor of Architecture from the Fine Arts Faculty of the University of Tehran in 2013. His work focuses mainly on graphic design and typeface design. Amir received the second prize of the type design competition Grand Shan in 2017 in the non-Latin category for designing Mirza. His typeface Mirza also won the 21st annual TDC typeface design competition in 2018 and was selected to receive the Certificate of Typographic Excellence. He has been a member of the Iranian Graphic Designers Society since 2017. He received a postmaster degree from the Atelier National de Recherche Typographique in Nancy in France in 2022 and is now pursuing a master degree at the Center for the Study of Manuscript Cultures and Written Artifacts at the University of Hamburg in Germany. Please join me in welcoming Amir Mahdi Moslehi. Hi, Amir, and so good to have you on this podcast and to meet you in person finally.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for inviting me for this podcast. I should update, I think, your biography because I received the first Grand Shan Prize for designing Ikhtiyar in 2022 and also another TDC for being the calligraphy advisor of the Gulzar Nastaaliq project that was designed by Borna Izzatpana and released by Google Fonts.
Okay. Well, thank you for the update. This is good. I think it's a good way to start because my first question would be to you is how, it's interesting. You studied architecture, but then did you ever work in architecture or did you go directly into graphic design?
No, never.
Never worked in architecture?
No. Because before coming to the university, I started learning calligraphy when I was 13. I was a trained calligrapher, so I somehow found my way and could imagine about my future life and professional life. And I think when I was in the second or third semester of my studies in architecture, I asked one of my calligraphy tutors, which was the last one, Morteza Kourshi, to establish a new art studio and collaborating with each other for calligraphy practices and also for doing illumination, traditional illumination that is for decorating a piece of calligraphy. And I was also the trainee of the illumination art of Morteza Kourshi in that time. So little by little in that studio, I was aware of some tricks of creating a piece of calligraphy in large scales and how to lay out a piece of paper in traditional way. And I did some experimental graphic design project and inspired by my practices in illumination art and those conventional forms of decoration of the piece of paper or layout design. When I received the feedback of other people, I found that I have this talent in graphic design and I can learn some software for pursuing my career in graphic design and designing some logotypes or typographic works. But in that time, I was not aware of the terminology of graphic design, or even I didn't know if I'm doing lettering or something like this. I just try to do everything in experimental way and just trying to use my knowledge in calligraphy and illumination art or other mediums of art that I try to transfer them to the digital format. Within the study of architecture, I little by little changed my career path to the graphic design and focusing on the tracing my piece of calligraphy and especially the calligraphy works of the master of calligraphy like Mirza Ghulam Reza into the digital format and tracing them in that time in the software CorelDRAW to complete a set of characters and letters that can be used in my graphic design project. And I think it was more than 5 years or 6 years I tried to collect all the characters and letters of the Mirza Ghulam Reza Isfahani from his specimen, his calligraphy specimens. The people that was aware of my activity tried to push me to design a typeface out of my research and out of my passion in working on the hand of Mirza Ghulam Reza Isfahani. And I think after 6 years, I was introduced by one of my tutors in another field that is a renowned calligraphy researcher, Dr. Hamid Reza Belichkhani. I was introduced to Mariamsoft for designing a Nastaaliq typeface, which is called Mirza. The outcome was Mirza, and I think it might be enough for this step.
Yeah, it's really good to talk about that, and it's also interesting that your training as a calligrapher and working with ornamentation and with illumination, that you made that link directly to graphic design, which is kind of natural because graphic design is like a continuation of these practices in the contemporary, and of course that calligraphy moved to type design. So. And you chose to work on Mirza. You want to talk a little bit more about this typeface and also the challenge of translating something very calligraphic to a typographic medium. And what were the considerations? What you learned from doing that? What you had to, what you learned about type design, but also what you learned about transferring from calligraphy to type design.
First of all, I think the first intention for design Mirza was that I was not satisfied with that, with the current Nastaaliq typeface in that time. 2 Nastaaliq fonts was available in that time, Iran Nastaaliq, and the other one was Calc, that was based on the hand of my calligraphy master, Abbas Akhabain, which was a kind of only tracing letters, not you couldn't find in that time. You couldn't find the typographic language in the drawing of the letters. It was just a tracing 1,000 of letters without systematizing the relation of the letters and trying to minimizing the group of the characters and group of the letters and trying to simplifying some letter connection by just by recognition the similarities and similar patterns among letters, among letter connections. So I decided to design my own Nastaaliq typeface that aligned with my interest and with my taste in Nastaaliq that I can easily use in my own project. So just describing the motif of designing, the intention of designing Mirza. But when I was commissioned by Mariamsoft for designing this typeface, first of all, I thought that it could be a really easy project because I collected all the characters, and so I just need to have time to just put them together and easily release a typeface. But when I decide to make a concrete project, I thought that I should revise and redesign all the characters, because I couldn't find the harmony between the characters when you put them together and split them from each other and try to set a group of letters on a baseline. You can find that, you can realize that there's no harmony between the letters, and the thickness should be refined, and the thickness varies between the letters. So it took me more than 6 months, I think 6 months, and I spent more than 10 hours per day to just redesign all the characters and set calligraphy rule for the letter connection. That the result was designing, I think, 20 letter families, and which family, the family I'm referring to, the family of B, the family of the connection of B, family of the connection of Ha, family of the connection of Lam, with 40 variations. Each family, each group family had a 40 variation in Mirza typeface. And I think I minimized the set of the character set of Mirza from more than 2,000 characters to less than 1,500 characters. I think it was a great outcome for this project to preserve the aesthetic feature of the Nastaaliq typeface while minimizing characters that with tiny differences that could be simplified. For example, the connection of B to Ain. I shared the same connection for B to Ain and B to Fa. Yes, I think the result was the fonts that was the outcome of this project was really simpler and with a small capacity in comparison with their counterparts like Iran Nastaaliq or Calc typeface, and it was a dynamic set of characters, I think.
How was it received? Because I mean, clearly you have been trained also in Nastaaliq as a calligrapher, so you're pretty comfortable and you have your own kind of handwriting in it, if I can say that. So why would you call it Mirza? Is it in reference to the style, or specifically to the calligrapher, the older master, or is it, your own handwriting and then kind of like?
No, it was not my handwriting.
Okay.
It was based on the hand of Mirza Ghulam Reza Isfahani.
Yeah.
I followed his style, and when I commissioned for designing this typeface, I was not precisely about his evolution of his styles. By studying his calligraphy life, I realized that, first of all, he followed a specific style of Nastaaliq that was inherited from the Safavid era. Okay. But in his last 20 years of his life, he found he established a specific style of Nastaaliq that was a mix of Nastaaliq and Shekaste. Okay. Shekaste Nastaaliq, which could be considered as a distinct style of Nastaaliq in the mid-Qajar era of Iran. And Mirza was the epitome of this style in that time, which was the style of the school of Hakkakan, the school of inscribers, because in the mid-Qajar, there were two master of calligraphy. First of all was Mirza Ghulam Reza Isfahani. The other one was Mir Hossein Turk Khoshnavisbashi, and the latter one was Mirza Kazem Tehrani. And all of these three calligraphers following the school of the the Nastaaliq model of the school of Hakkakan, and you can feel the tendency of manipulating the forms of letter because of their job in inscribing. All of them had this experience of lettering and manipulating letters and transferring letter from the paper support to something like implementing letter on metal or other supports that's not practicing, that not applying letters with your hand, but also creating letters out of your memory and with an intermediate tool like the inscriber or something like this. I think I had this impression that it can be like the experience of typeface design in that time, because you are dealing with the outer of the letters, with the outer stroke of the letters.
So you're kind of drawing it rather than writing it.
Exactly, yes. And the tool is not empowering your design. Your thought and your imagination of the letter is following your design. It's developing your design. It's developing your idea. And so I picked the 20 years of life of Mirza Ghulam Mirza and his specimens, and just focusing on his work on which is called Satr, which is his work that written on a same baseline with the same side of pen. I collected those materials and tried to trace all the available letters from these models, and the other letters or letter connection that was not available, I tried to reimagine those letters and rebuild those letters that could be suited, that could be aligned and harmonious with with the resources that I traced. So because of this concern, I redesigned all the characters that I have designed before and tried to create a framework of the Mirza Ghulam Mirza that my sources created in the same age, with the same style and in the same size, and on the same paper support or on the same proportion. Yes.
I'm really fascinated by what you're talking about, that this was already in that period already, that people were writing Nastaaliq on the baseline, because there are people that believe that Perso-Arabic can only be on multiple baselines, and that people only wrote it, that actually the one baseline is something that was imposed by printing technology. And it's really good to hear that that is not true. And of course, in the Kufi script, you see a lot of examples on the baseline, but in the fluid scripts, you don't see so many. So it's really good to hear that. I think this is really important because, I've had this discussion with people, but I don't have the historical background to know, at least not about Nastaaliq. So it's really interesting for me that your work from the start into entering type design has been very much about researching, looking for sources, analyzing them, thinking about how do you bring it into a contemporary context. And so I'm curious how well it was received, because maybe people think you're doing something unusual by doing what you're doing. Was it open? I mean, was it well received? Were there people very oh, we can't do that? The protectionists.
At the same time, I think at the first time, there was some, I think, negative opinion about my project, because I did it alone without supervision of master of calligraphies, and maybe without the supervision of those people that experienced this kind of project before. So I think at the beginning, people were trying to pushing me back, and because I was really young in that time, and it was my first project. But
it's very courageous, young person's naive approach. Let's do it. Let's try.
Yeah, exactly. But little by little, by using this typeface in a really, really large scale and in all the urban spaces and all the graphic design banners and posters, especially those posters that's associated with the government, or because our government, because it's an easy way to design a poster using a Nastaaliq typeface in your poster as an Iranian, because it's beautiful and you don't need to deal with the composition or matching the colors and creating sophisticated grids, and just only use the Nastaaliq letters and it's conveys its message. Yes, exactly. Municipality of Tehran started using Mirza in his urban banners in a really large scales, and in all the billboards and in all the city banners. I think many of the people became aware of this project, and I received some feedback from some masters of calligraphy that they encouraged this, they encouraged and admired this project. And one of them, which is I think one of the most famous Iranian calligrapher, Mohammad Ehsai, sent me a message from. I just received his message from Dr. Hamid Rizaqi that he certified that 70% of the style of Mirza Ghulam Nastaaliq is represented in this project, and it was really fascinating compliment for me.
Yes.
After receiving the second prize of Grandson, it was not really, how can I say, it was not really good assessment because people that assessed Mirza in the Grandson competition was not really skillful in assessing Nastaaliq work, but it was good. It was because it was an international prize. So I think Mirza, during this 8 years from the release of Mirza, became the primary Nastaaliq typeface in Iran, despite the price of this typeface, because you should buy this typeface, but there's also some free typefaces like Iran Nastaaliq that is available, but it seems that people consciously buy this typeface because they are thinking that the shape of these letters are maybe more beautiful than those available free typefaces. So they keep purchasing this typeface and using this typeface in their project, and I think it can be considered as the well-receivedness of Mirza among Iranians and other potential user of this typeface.
And Mirza Jali, is that came later, or was that also designed in time? And you can talk a little bit on like what is difference between the two, or
Mirza Jali. I designed Mirza Jali 1 year after designing Mirza, and it was at the beginning of working as a typeface designer. I tried to use the terminology of calligraphy for referring to the weight or some technical word of typeface design. Like in that time, I thought that using the bold style for the bold version of Mirza was not a really good correspondence for. It's not a really good title for designing such this style for this typeface. Because of that, I used Jali, which comes from calligraphy and carrying its historical background and its historical representation. So I chose Jali, but the way that I designed this typeface was experimental as well, was not following the calligraphic style and calligraphic approach, because in calligraphy, in Nastaaliq calligraphy, when you are referring to the inscription style of Nastaaliq, you are talking about a different style in terms of proportion, in terms of thickness, and in terms of the height of some vertical stroke in, for example, in Aleph, or in the connected final form of Aleph or Lam, or etc. It's completely different from the way that you write letters on paper. But in Mirza Jali, I followed the typographic approach and try to increase the thickness of letter, simplifying some stroke breaks and some flow of the stroke, and to create the black texture of Nastaaliq type setting that was not experienced before. I think Mirza Jali can be considered as at least in Iran, it was the first bold Nastaaliq typeface. In that time, I was not aware of Urdu Nastaaliq, if there were the bold version of Urdu Nastaaliq or not. So I was not aware of that. I just only saw some regular typefaces in Urdu sphere, I think. But when you see the Mirza Jali, and in comparison to Mirza, the regular style of Mirza, you can feel that I simplified some details and some calligraphy details of the letters, because I thought that for the display manner, it doesn't make sense to keep those calligraphic features. Maybe it makes sense for the smile size to keep those calligraphic and expressive feature to share the beauties of the calligraphic letters. But for the larger scale and for the bold version of this typeface, that's designed for using and running the large scale of the letters and for writing short sentences, it doesn't make sense to keep those calligraphic features. And I tried to find, in that time for that project, I tried to find the typographic language for designing this typeface.
I would love to ask you about your project that you did at ANRT, Mehraban. First, why did you decide to join ANRT, and how did that process come about? And did you come already with this idea, or were you, when you got there, you got the idea to work on this project? Maybe I'll just let you just introduce the project briefly, and then give me a chance to ask you a few more detailed questions about it.
Actually, first of all, I should introduce Mehraban, yes?
Yes, please.
Mehraban typeface. In ANRT, in Atelier National de Recherche Typography, there is a special program which is called Missing Scripts, that some researcher designers applied for this project to work on the scripts and the writing system that are not encoded in Unicode, or somehow abandoned, or in some of them are in the verge of extinction, or maybe some of them are marginalized or in the minority. So one of the open project in that time was Book Pahlevi, designing a typeface for Book Pahlevi writing system that was a writing system of Iranian people before the introduction of Islam. I was not aware of this institute and even this program. And thanks to my friend Borna Izzat Pana, I was introduced to the director of this institute, ENRT, for applying for this program and coming to France for designing this project. At the beginning of this project, I should tell you that I haven't had any plan before joining ENRT about designing a typeface for book Pahlavi, and the intention for this for designing this project came after joining ENRT and after realizing about this project and learning about ENRT and its scopes and its project. And at the beginning, I was not aware of book Pahlavi and other Middle Persian writing systems. So I decided to find a relevant advisor for this project. And for another time, with the help of my friend Borna Izzat Pana, I was connected to Dr. Arash Zeini, who was I think in that time, postdoc fellowship of Farah University in Berlin, and was a renowned codicolog and philolog of the field of Middle Persian writing system, especially book Pahlavi script and the script of the Persian writing system before Islam and in the earliest Islam period as well. And with the help of Arash Zeini, I could understand the complexity of this writing system, because it is really, really complicated writing system, and it was not still encoded in Unicode because of its complexity. I think the project of encoding encoding book Pahlavi in Unicode started in 1991, and many of the writing system in that time has been encoded in Unicode, but book Pahlavi remained unencoded because of its complexity. One of the complexity of the book Pahlavi is that each character could be pronounced in different ways, at least in 10 or in sometimes in 12 times. One letter can be Ain, can be Aleph, can be Jim. Yes, just the context of the text can somehow clarify the pronunciation of the individual letter, but it is not certain. Just you can just predict that from some evidences that this letter can be this, that you can present this specific letter. Another problem of this project was that the written manuscript of the book Pahlavi writing system, most of them were written in 14th century. I mean, in many centuries after the advent of Islam and after the destruction of Sassanid Empire. So finding the available resources, that the authentic resources that dated in Sassanid period, I think in my project at least it was impossible. So I, with the help of Dr. Arash Zeini, I tried to collected some resources that I found from Avestan Digital Archive. That was a fellowship postdoctoral project of some researcher in Farah University in Berlin. With the help of him, I tried to distinguish those manuscripts into two different styles. Those manuscripts that was created with the Iranian flavor of writing letters, or the other style of writing Middle Persian book Pahlavi script letters, was referring to the scribal culture of the Zoroastrians that are living in India and following the Indian culture of writing book Pahlavi letters. In this project, my focus was on the a style of letter that belongs to the Iranian scribes. One of the legendary scribes of this style was Mehraban Khosrow. So because of that, I chose the name of Mehraban. Mehraban means kind in English. I chose the name of kind. Mehraban in Persian means kind. And I chose Mehraban to tribute to this legendary scribe. And the process of drawing letters was to just using this collected resources and drawing letters from this manuscript. And when I draw when I draw the main characters of Book Pahlavi, I tried to use my own interpretation and my own knowledge in typeface design, because since Book Pahlavi was developed not in a situation like the development of Nastaaliq, which was developed under the patronage of the king or the center of power on with the help of the wealthy patrons, and with the main focus on this script. Book Pahlavi was developed by the minorities, and the letters was not created with the masters of calligraphy. So you can feel that those calligraphic features that are available in some writing styles like Nas or like Nastaaliq are not available or are not existed, are not presented in Book Pahlavi. So since my project was designing a typeface, and one of the main feature of designing a typeface is the aesthetic, and establishing a specific aesthetic for your typeface that's dealing with applying those typographic features like harmony or homogenizing letters, or homogenizing thickness of letters, or sharing the same features in all letters. When I draw 14 main characters of Book Pahlavi, I try to use my own interpretation in developing and designing the rest of the characters. And it was also really challenging because I didn't have any inventory for letter joining or something like Arabic Unicode was not available in that project. So I tried to establish, or I tried to invent my own system for letter joining in Book Pahlavi. At the end of NXT, I designed something like the first draft that was not even a typeface, because you couldn't type with the letters. You can manually set the letters and create a specific sentence. And I use the Arabic Unicode for setting letters. And when I finished my project in NXT, I went to Rosetta Type Foundry as a guest designer. And with the collaboration of David Brejina, we could apply a system. We could apply a system that was based on the Arabic mapping of the characters and letters for making a font out of the letters that I've drawn. It was really challenging because David debug each step of this font engineering process. It was really complicated, and it was really frustrating for him because collision happened, and we used a lot of contextual ligatures for setting those characters to each other. But finally, we managed to find a solution for the font engineering process. And when the Unicode of the book Pahlavi will be available, we can transfer our project to the Unicode. I'm not sure if this project is going well or not. I mean, the project of encoding book Pahlavi in Unicode, but we hope once the Unicode will be available, we transfer Mehraban typeface to the Unicode.
Makes me think of two things while listening to you. First, why did you not use the encoding for Aramaic, since Aramaic is included in Unicode? And the second question is, do you think it's not available in Unicode because it's not used anymore as a script, or is it still used in very, very limited ways? And in which way is it used other than kind of academic study of the script and the culture?
I think it's really useful, I think, for scholars and for linguists of this field, the field of Middle Persian, and it's widely used in their transcribing. But the way that they use book Pahlavi, the digital form of book Pahlavi letters for transcribing their Middle Persian text is, I think some of them using Latin Unicode for the book Pahlavi fonts that they created, and they unprofessionally traced, just digitally traced those letters and put the characters in the Latin Unicode. But I think the encoding Unicode is complicated because they are trying to find, maybe Ruzbe Purnader should be involved in this project for explaining the Unicode process of Unicode efforts of encoding book Pahlavi. But I'm sure that Imperial Aramaic Unicode was not really good match for using as a base for book Pahlavi, because in book Pahlavi, the contextual ligatures are the main features of this script.
So my question is next is, what do you think is still missing? What would you like to see type design in the region going towards? What are your future projects or things you would like to explore, or you think is important to explore?
My I have two ongoing projects, more than two, I think. The other one that I'm working is designing an Urdu Nastaaliq for Typeotech Type Foundry. I'm working on this project as one of the script of another super family and multi-script typefaces of that designed in Typeotech. It's a Typeotech project, and I'm working on designing the Nastaaliq version of one of their projects. And the other one is with the Typeotech Arabic with Christian that I mentioned before. It's Shekanj. I'm designing this typeface, and I started designing this typeface in March 2022, and I'm still developing this project. The first weight is finished, and I'm trying to develop other ways, and if it's possible to develop other style, the Naskh style, the upright style that can be considered as the Naskh style. I think I myself considered as the missionary of Nastaaliq in the typographic word. I think in the word
that's
of
typography. That's a nice thing, though.
yes, I think dealing with the style of Nastaaliq, the regional style of Nastaaliq from Egypt to Pakistan is the main interest of my main research. My main interest in the research field is to just identify these styles of Nastaaliq, that how letter of Nastaaliq formed. For example, in the Ottoman Empire, they used the sources that came from Iran, came from the Persian calligraphy legacy, but they localized letters according to their cultural interest and established their own Nastaaliq style. And recognition of the borders of this manipulation of the letters is really crucial for me. For example, in Urdu Nastaaliq, they change freely letters. They create many types of re, but we easily recognize, or we easily call them Urdu Nastaaliq. What is the actually the how we define them Urdu Nastaaliq, and what is the border of the Urdu Nastaaliq and Persian Nastaaliq, and which factors involved in this distinction? We can recognize some features like the axis of letters, the rhythm of the letters, but which factors influenced on these styles, and which factors? And another field that in Nastaaliq I'm really passionate to go through is that the evolution of Nastaaliq in Iran, specifically in the Qajar era, from the late 18th century to the early 20th, which is the characteristic of the Qajar art style, which cannot be traced in the modern period of Iran or in the previous period. I myself think that the approach of the Qajar monarchies toward the Western civilization and Western manifestation is different from the approaches of the later government or later rulers, because my assumption is that the Qajar monarchies try to localize Western elements and those cultural motifs that came from the Western world to Iran, that somehow similar to the approach of people in Pakistan or in India. They're trying to localize in all the foreign or abroad cultural influences that you cannot find in the modern era of Iran. And after the adoption of the simplified Nas letters for writing Persian text, Nastaaliq letters, Nastaaliq script gradually declined for writing Persian text and only used for creating artistic work. And so I'm trying to identify the specific Nastaaliq style, especially that used for creating monumental inscriptions in Iran, to find the characteristics of the display version of Nastaaliq for using as a public medium, or the medium that interacts with the public, and the medium that comes from the conventional way of creating calligraphy works, but using as something like a monumental thing that could interact with ordinary people and could be interpreted with the spectators without the presence of the artist, and not only for exhibiting in gallery or just for satisfying the patrons, but also for using as a live urban element that exist in the city and can create memories for the ordinary people, and that could be interpreted by the spectators. And also the calligrapher think about the perception and interpretation of spectators in the creation process.
Let's backtrack a little bit and talk about, the challenge of technology. So was there a big difference when you were designing Mirza and when you were designing Mehraban?
For the Mirza project, I was not responsible for the font engineering of this project. I think they used Font Lab for the font engineering process, but I'm not aware of the detail of this project. But in that time, the use of open type features was not like today. So with the introduction of some software programs like Glyphs, or I haven't used the software that are using in The Hague, in KBK. What is the name of this?
RoboFont?
RoboFont, yes. I think their features are facilitating designer during their design, especially for those scripts that representing calligraphic features is crucial, like Arabic, because ligature, the definition of ligature in Arabic, if we can use this definition for Arabic script, because I'm not really agree with this idea that using ligature for connecting two individual letters in Arabic, that is ligature, like, for example, that like something optional or stylistic that exists in Latin typeface design, which is called ligature. In that context, it makes sense, but in Arabic, I think it's the grammar of the script. It's the calligraphy rule. When be connect to meme in that way, it's part of the calligraphy rule of this writing system. That is different from what we learn in Naskh or what we learn in Roqa, and each writing style follow its own calligraphy rule. So they are not ligature. Nowadays, with the development of open type features and those features that help designer to implement their own ideas, the process of design becomes easier.
Yeah, I mean, it has become easier to do very complex work and to kind of put in your own rules without having to have rules imposed by the software on what you cannot do. I'm sure that with encoding, it's become, it allows more possibilities than was available before. So what would be your advice to them? What they should consider doing as designers? I mean, what is the best way to enter this field or to make your mark in it? Or
I think the best thing as a piece of advice, I think, is that they should first of all finish their works on paper or something as a sketch. I think when they completely get aware of their work on paper or something like the draft, they can easily transfer it to the digital format. But when they start with tracing letters on digital format, in most cases, they waste their time, their energy to just changing something and trying to modify letters without any predictions of the future steps, and just I think it's the waste of time when you are not completely sure about the structure of your work on paper or as a draft. First of all, you should train yourself, your hand, your eyes with studying the reliable sources and authentic design work. And my Another advice is that when you want to start working on a specific typeface, first of all, you should contextualize your work, and you should think about, and you should put your foot on the shoes of the intended audiences and intended user of your work, and do not rely on some stereotypes, I think, about readability or legibility of letters, or something that you can find in some weblogs or some social medias or something like this, and in an interview on YouTube like me about the readability, because it's completely changed within the culture, within the writing style, and you cannot find the international language for typographic features like legibility or harmony, or those features that are the tool of a designer, but always changing according to the writing style and according to the project, etc.
So thank you very much for this really nice conversation. I really enjoyed listening to you talking about your work. I get a much more insight into what you're doing, and I also really find fascinating, your mission to, bring Nastaaliq out of like all preconceived ideas and to kind of present all the nuances and all the possibilities of this wonderful script. So thank you so much, Amir.
Thank you.
Wish you a lovely rest of your day, and thank you to all our listeners, and I hope you enjoy it as much as I do.
Thank you, Huda, for having me and inviting me for this great podcast and this great interview, and I wish you all the best and see you soon.
Thank you.